And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today, I will be your host. Today's show, we are talking about the NBA playoffs as the playoff fields are set in both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. I'll be talking about the teams that I think are on upset alert. What teams do I think are going to make a deep run? Actually be a dark horse in this year's NBA playoffs. So make sure you press the like and subscribe button and follow the show on not only YouTube, but also to Spotify, guys. So let's jump into it. You guys know I love to go ahead and give you the visuals to go along with it. And so this is what the NBA playoffs are looking like right now, guys. And so as you see on the Western Conference right now, you'll see that there are some blank slates there. That is because obviously we have some play-in situations that are coming up here. I believe it's going to be starting this Wednesday or Thursday, actually, is when the actual play-in tournament does start here. So that is right around the corner. And then we'll be able to see who the one, obviously the 8 seed is, who the 7 else. But right now, you're loosely looking at this thing. OKC, that was actually a shocker today because they were able to go ahead and clinch the top seed. They were able to beat the Dallas Mavericks, who essentially didn't play anybody in today's game. They already knew what their seeding was, but OKC just ran through the finish line here. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, they actually fall into the 3rd seed here, and the Clippers, they were going to win the West, fall into the 4th seed. And then how about the Phoenix Suns here? The Phoenix Suns actually avoid the play-in situation, which I think is pretty big for them, but I still think that they're going to have a tall order. And then you have Denver sitting at the 2 seed. Over here on the Eastern Conference side of things, you have Boston sitting there at number 1. They've probably been, I think, the most consistent basketball team in the Eastern Conference all year. You got Cleveland sitting here at the 4-5 going against the Orlando Magic here, which I think you're going to see one of the best young teams in the NBA led by Pablo Banchero. He's been outstanding. And you're also going to see how the Orlando Magic have drafted well as well. So very excited for that series. You got the Milwaukee Bucks, who I think are in some big trouble, sitting at seed number 3. And you got the Pacers, who were top in the NBA or Eastern Conference, and now they've fallen down here to the 6th spot. And then you have the New York Knicks sitting at the 2 spot. They were able to secure that today with a win over my Chicago Bulls. So with that being said, guys, let's look at my surprise teams. And it's going to start with the OKC Thunder. And then you also have the Minnesota Timberwolves. Shout out to, first of all, the OKC Thunder for winning their first championship in the West since 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So that was huge for them. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people thought that they were going to get to the top seed in the conference. So shout out to them. And then also to a shout out to Sam Presti and what he's been able to do. I think a lot of people thought that, Sam Presti might be wasting these draft picks, but he has done a terrific job out there with these draft picks. And I think he's done a great job too in getting some older talent to go along with these guys. But, it starts with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's unfortunate. I think he probably would possibly be my MVP. Although I wouldn't bat an eye if he got it. But I think to me, it's been Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man's been incredible, what he's been able to do for the Timberwolves. I like him as my MVP, but I wouldn't bat an eye if somebody went with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think between these two, these were my favorites for the MVP race. But, I just think that Shai Gilgeous has played so good. I have to think that the Los Angeles Clippers are thinking to themselves now, really, we probably should have kept this guy versus trading him, versus trading him for Paul George. So the Clippers had Shai Gilgeous and they traded him off for Paul George to get him over there to play with Kawhi. But I have to be thinking that the Clippers are thinking to themselves, with the amount of games that he's played and just the stellar play that he's had, you probably wish you would have had him. I mean, he's put up 30 points per game this year, 5 rebounds a game, 6 assists, shooting 53% from the field here. So this guy has been incredible for the Thunder. And I mean, he's been just their leader. And so Shea Gillis has really developed himself into one of the best scorers and players here in the NBA. I think that they got also to speaking of OKC, I think that they really got a lot out of their rookie Carson Wallace coming out of Kentucky. He's averaging 2 rebounds and an assist here, shooting 48% from the field, which is pretty good for a rookie. But he is a terrific defensive presence and a guy that is able to come in and be a real spark plug for them. I love what they have with Isaiah Joe and the way he's been able to shoot the basketball. Chet Holmgren has been quite a surprise here. I think everybody knew, including myself, I thought he could possibly be the rookie of the year. He's right there with Wembanyama, but I think Wembanyama has just been too strong of a candidate here. So he's averaging the 16 points, the 7 rebounds, and 2 assists here, and 52% from the field. So he's had a pretty good year, and he's also held up as well, because that was one of the things that a lot of people were wondering is about his physicality. Next, with both the Jalen Williams twins. So Williams, and then you got the other Jalen Williams as well. They're not twins, but they both go by the same first name. Obviously, it's spelled a little bit different, but both play a critical role here for the Thunder. Starting with Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara. I mean, he's been phenomenal. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game, shooting 53% from the field. Been incredible for them. And so, I got to give a shout out to them. Those are my teams that I think are probably my surprise teams. And then looking at Minnesota, obviously Ant-Man, he's my MVP at this point in time. I think that with what Ant-Man has been able to do, he has really built on the season that he had last year. And I personally had some questions about him coming out of Georgia. I didn't know if he was just going to merely be a scorer, but the fact that he's also been a terrific distributor, I think, for Minnesota. And then also, too, he's kept them on pace as well since Karl Anthony Towns went out. I think I remember on NBA, the TNT show. Yeah, so inside the NBA there on TNT, and I think Charles Barkley was challenging the T-Wolves to see if they could actually stay up there at the number 1 spot. And they were right there until, the final week of the season. They got beat by Denver, and obviously OKC taking care of business kind of hurt them here, so that kind of slid them down. But again, it wasn't Anthony Edwards' fault. 26 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 46% from the field, just been phenomenal. And I think the key for them is going to be, can Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert play together? All right. And so that's the critical thing that I would say. But those are the 2 most surprising teams, I think, in the NBA playoffs at this point. The teams with the biggest question marks, in my opinion, I think it's these 2 teams. I think you're looking at the Milwaukee Bucks and then the Philadelphia 76ers. And so starting with the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the most disappointing seasons, I think, even though that they're 3rd seed here in the Eastern Conference, but Giannis is hurt with the calf injury. And the one thing that I will say about that injury is that Giannis went down, and it reminds me a lot of what happened to Kevin Durant when he went down, right? When Kevin Durant went down, that was tough, I think, for for the Golden State Warriors. And I'm not going to say they rushed him back, but he came back and he messed up his Achilles. So this is something that I would be wary of if I am in Milwaukee's franchise here. You do not want to put Giannis out there and have him damage himself, okay, no matter what the circumstances are. Being said, I just think that, if he's down, they're definitely vulnerable, okay? Dame Lillard has not been the type of guard that he was at Portland, and obviously you knew that was going to take a hit because the team is a little bit better around him, so he doesn't have to score as much. Doc Rivers hasn't been able to get this team to play defense. They can't stop a nosebleed. Because of that, I think that this team is very beatable. And I think that this is a team that, in my opinion, is going to be on the upset alert. Philadelphia. Okay, so Philadelphia has a huge question mark to me because Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey were fabulous in the season when they played together. However, once again, the process has been slowed down by injuries. And there's been a ton of injuries that have occurred since Joel Embiid has been over to Philadelphia. And it seems like he's generally not healthy when it comes down to the postseason. There's always something that goes wrong here. And so I think that this is a situation where if Philly doesn't figure this thing out, I could see where Joel Embiid is not going to be here at not too much longer. Okay, because you can't continue to have these seasons where you start off well, then you get injured, and it really crushes the Philadelphia 76ers because they put so much on Joel Embiid. Now, he did miss the season finale, and it was quite telling because the Sixers could have possibly improved their position and got out of the play-in situation, but now they're in the play-in situation that are locked in and they're going to have to face the Heat. And so you're hoping that Joel Embiid is going to be ready to come back and play good basketball. Now, he's looked stellar coming back here the last couple games. Clearly this is a guy that obviously I think he could have been the MVP in my opinion had he not gone down, and he's not qualified for that award anymore, but he was playing at an MVP level. I like the fact that they've gone out and they've got Buddy Hield to go along with Tobias Harris and such, but I just wonder, does Philadelphia have enough in the tank on the bench? Like, it feels like almost that they're always continuously kind of running it back and they always kind of run into injuries here. So these two teams are definitely the teams that I'm going to say are going to be the most questionable. Next up, teams that are on the upset alert, starting with the Phoenix Suns. All right. I told you guys time and time again, that the Phoenix Suns are a team that is absolutely built top heavy. If any of those top three go down, they were going to have a struggling season. They really got lucky and they salvaged their season by not having to play in the play-in. I think had they had to play in the play-in, I don't know if they would have advanced out of the play-in, to be honest with you. Okay. And so that's number one. All right. Number two, these guys have missed games. Okay. Devin Booker's been out, and then Bradley Beal has missed a ton of time this year. All right. And that's what he was in an injury situation coming out of Washington. Kevin Durant has probably been the most healthiest player on the roster, and he's been the most consistent. But I don't trust the fact that the big three really could go down at any point in time in the playoffs, even though I know that they're going to be locked in. I know you're focused on one team, but I think that this team is very vulnerable. I think aside from Kevin Durant, this team is pretty small. I do not believe in Nurkic, who's had probably one of his healthier seasons here. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to win per se in this one-on-one matchup that he's going to have. I don't like the fact that they're going against the Timberwolves as well, who, yes, they're the third seed, but I think a lot of people could argue that that's actually the number one seed. I know you have the experience that Phoenix has, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to handle the youth that the Timberwolves have. And I don't see the Timberwolves going out in the first round. This is not the Timberwolves team that they, first got into play-in, and then now they made it to the playoffs, and they had D'Angelo Russell, and it was one of those games where they're up by 20. Next thing they're down by 5, right? Because of the shot selection and everything else. But this Minnesota team is a lot different. And I think that Phoenix is going to see that. And I think that they for sure could be upsetted here. Next up is going to be obviously Milwaukee. I just talked about that. The injuries, not being able to play defense. Doc Rivers hasn't been able to really implement his system. Dame Lillard's kind of been a bit passive here. I just don't like the disposition that Milwaukee's in. I think that they're very vulnerable. This kind of reminds me of Miami when they were able to kind of keep moving out of the play-in situation. Giannis went down there. I don't think Giannis is going to be able to play in that series. I just, not with a calf injury. Having experience with that, and also to seeing that, a calf injury is very tricky and it can lead to a major Achilles injury. You do not want to rush that. So I feel like the Bucks are not going to have Giannis, and they are possibly going to get beat. Next up, the Los Angeles Clippers. I think that the Clippers are, I've said this several times before, are the Cowboys of the NBA. They have these terrific seasons. They get to the playoffs and something goes wrong. Kawhi was having a season of the ages, and then all of a sudden he's had knee issues and he's had to sit out. I do not like that. And Ty Lue really has not addressed it. All right. Now he's kind of not really going in there. He's thinking that Kawhi is going to be back, but the amount of games that Kawhi has missed down the stretch and the fact that it's a knee, which he's had issues with before, I don't like that because James Harden, as good as he is, MVP like, he really hasn't done too much in the playoffs, right? He has been in the Western Conference Finals before, but they had an epic lapse against the Golden State Warriors. He's never been able to get over that hump. Obviously, he wasn't able to get over that hump with the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm not sure if he's able to get over the hump this year, especially without Kawhi. They've definitely cooled off a lot. They've had to rely a lot more on their bench, which I think is a good thing because Ty Lue will play the bench. But I do not like the Clippers. And the one thing that I will say about the Mavs, and especially Luka Doncic, he has absolutely had the Clippers numbers. All right. He is getting so close to getting past the Clippers. And I think it's this year. This year, he is going to get past the Los Angeles Clippers. I think this is the year where you see him go out there and make it happen. I think that this is the year that he will go ahead and take Kawhi and those guys down this year. And he's got Kyrie Irving. He's going to be with him. I think he's going to show him the way. I love the fact that they have Lively out there as well. I think he's one of the better younger big men in the league. And I love the fact that they went out there and they got Daniel Gafford as well from Washington. So Dallas has gotten bigger. They've also got guys that can go out there, catch a lot of lobs and things like that. They're going to put extreme pressure on the Clippers interior, and they are going to continue to run at them early and often. If Kawhi is not good defensively, which is your best defender, the Clippers are in some serious trouble. Next up, I'm going to say that I think that it's a possibility that the Cavs could be beaten. I think that the Cavs are in kind of the same situation as the Clippers. They had a terrific year, but it's something about Donovan Mitchell not being able to advance very far. He's been, I think, as close as the finals, if I'm not mistaken, or the semifinals, but they were beaten by the Clippers. But he hasn't really been able to push past that point. And the team is solid. It's not like it's not a solid team in Cleveland, but they're going against a team that, in my opinion, doesn't know any better. All right. And that's the one thing that it can beat you in the playoffs as well, because Orlando hasn't been there before. I think Orlando's in a situation where they could possibly get Cleveland, just based off just going out there, playing hard. You got Ben Cheryl. I think he's playing with house money. They're playing with house money. And I think Orlando has a real legit chance to go out there and get Donovan Mitchell and these guys because, the pressure is really on Cleveland. And I don't think that Cleveland is going to be able to necessarily handle that. I think that this is going to be a series that it's going to go down to, I think, the last 6 or 7 games. So I think this is going to be a deep series, but I think for sure these are teams that are on the upset alert. Next up, teams that could make a run. So I've got Golden State, I've got Miami, and I've got the Lakers. So Golden State is a team that always is intriguing to me. They're a championship team. They're a couple seasons removed from a championship, but since Draymond Green was reinserted back into the lineup after that lengthy suspension and everything else, and he missed time, they have had a top 10 rating offensively. They've had a top 10 rating defensively as well. And this is a team that I don't think anybody wants to see. The bottom line is that they still have some of the best shooters that have ever lived playing on their roster. They have quietly got their rotations together, and Jonathan Kuminga has been outstanding. I love Trace Davis and the size that they've added there. They still got Kevon Looney, and they have gotten a quiet and a good surprise with Brandon Prozinski. So the Golden State Warriors are a team absolutely nobody wants to see. The Miami Heat are a team with Jimmy Butler. They're a team you don't want to see as well, and they have that Miami Heat culture. I love the fact that for the Miami Heat, the one thing that they did is they added a little bit of scoring here to go along with that Miami Heat culture with Terry Rozier. So that makes them a bit scary here because Terry Rozier certainly can come in and get buckets. I think it was an upgrade over Kyle Lowry. I love Jaime Jaquez Jr. I think he was one of the best rookies in this draft class. They have Tyler Hero back, and he's healthy. I think that he's effective. They've added a bit more size to this unit as well. So if they get deep and they have to go against Denver again, I love Thomas Bryant. I love Bam Adebayo. And I also love Hayward Highsmith, a guy that played pretty well he played pretty well in the summer league. And I think this is a guy that he plays with a lot more height than he actually has. They still have Kevin Love out there as well. So this team is experienced. They've got some shooters. Duncan Robinson, forgot about him. This team could go deep. They can make some noise. The Lakers were there last year. Okay. And so look, it was mentioned that looking at LeBron would be 4th or 5th in the Eastern Conference, and you knew Cleveland was going to the finals. If you have LeBron James on your team, much like Steph Curry is on your team, those are generational players, you always have a chance. And Anthony Davis was only locked in every other game, and they still made it to the conference finals or whatever the case may be. So the Lakers can absolutely do it. They are a bit older. It is going to take a bit more of the youth movement over there. They're going to have some great play from guys like Gabe Davis out there, who's really had a really frustrating season. Austin Reeves is going to have to take an even bigger step. They're going to have Spencer DeWinnell. Rui Hachimura is going to have to play pretty well for them to advance. And then obviously you're going to need, Jared Vanderbilt to play like he played last year. You're going to need Christian Woods and these guys to step up to go along with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But these are teams that can shake it up and make some noise. They could make a deep run. Next up, guys, teams that may make some noise. All right. So starting with my Chicago Bulls, this is a little bias here, but the Chicago Bulls have been very up and down. They've been injury riddled. They quietly have probably the best clutch player in the league and fourth quarter scorer in DeMar DeRozan. There's been really nobody that's been better other than De'Aaron Fox. And they also have the most improved player, in my opinion, is Kobe White, even though that's probably slowed down just a bit. They have an all defensive award winner, I think, in Alex Caruso. And they're going to have another guy that is feisty like Alex Caruso out there, like Javonte Green. This team is very undersized, and they just found out that they have Adama Sinoco out there who put up numbers that were comparable to Victor Wembanyama with his 20 and 22 games, so 20 points and 22 rebounds. To go along with Vucevic, who's been inconsistent, they have height that if it clicks, it can be tough on teams. And if they get you in the fourth quarter, they can actually get you, all right, because DeRozan is a closer, all right, and he's one of the best in the league. So they can sneak up and possibly get you if they get it out of the play-in situation. Now, are they going to win a series? No. This team reminds me of a team that the Chicago Bulls, when they had Rondo, when they had Dwayne Wade, when they had Jimmy Butler, and they went up 2-0 on the Boston Celtics, only to lose to the Celtics in the first round. And that was the year that Isaiah Thomas was the MVP. So this reminds me of that type of team if they get it clicking. This is a team that may not even make it out of the play-ins too. So it's like a Final Four team. You don't know what they're going to get, but if they can get in, they could possibly make a little noise. The Dallas Mavericks are another team that I could say could make some noise here. You see Lively, you see Doncic, you see Kyrie Irving. This team they remind me a lot of what they had when they won the championship. And this is the type of team that Jason Kidd wanted to construct. I see that. All right. They have lob threats. They have good guard play with Kyrie. They have a pretty decent forward with Luka Doncic, who they compare to Dirk Nowitzki. I'm not willing to take that leap. I'm just saying that's what Mark Cuban said. So before you guys get me in the comments, that's what Cuban said. So, listen, I can see that. I can see them getting past the Clippers, and I can see them possibly making some noise here and being a wild card to get into the Western Conference Finals. I wouldn't put it past them. The Pacers are another team that they were extremely hot, top of the East. I think that they were in the play-in tournament, if I'm not mistaken, in the finals. They got beat, but Tyrese Halliburton has been incredible, missed a ton of games, I think, down the stretch. Miles Turner has been incredible as well. The pieces that they have right now in the Pacers have been pretty good. I love what they have with Benedict Mathurin and the way he's been able to score the basketball off the bench here. I love what they have with the young man out of Gonzaga as well. Nimhard, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how you say his name. But he's been incredible. I like that they have some size and some big men in here like Isaiah Jackson. He's good. But mainly, I love what they did at the trade deadline and getting Pascal Siakam. I think getting Pascal Siakam has really helped them out. Here's a guy that's coming over. He's got championship experience. And since they brought him over, defensively, they've gotten better. He's averaging 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists here, shooting 53%. And here's a guy that I think is their closer. All right. So I don't know if you necessarily want to see the Pacers. They haven't even used Jace Walker, who's the 5th or 6th pick in the draft last year. They still have Obi Toppin out here, a guy that has come over from the Knicks and actually has improved his range too as well. So this team is very dangerous because they can score. Now, defensively, they've gotten better with Pascal Siakam. Not great, but still a team that can make some noise. The teams that should be there at the end, all right, the teams that we know just hands down they should be there in the finals, that's going to be the Boston Celtics, and that's going to be the Denver Nuggets. I think that when you look at the Celtics, the question for them was, could they stay healthy? And for the most part, they've answered that. I know Drew Holiday was out with the elbow injury. I think he's back now. And Porzingis has been shockingly healthy. All right. So he's made it through the regular season. Now the question for the Celtics is, can Porzingis stay healthy in the playoffs? He hasn't been able to do so. But if he can stay healthy in the playoffs, this team is extremely dangerous. Jason Tatum, also Jaylen Brown, they've been there before. You got Al Horford on this team to go along with Porzingis. I love the fact that they kept Peyton Pritchard, a guard that can come off and score. I love the Xavier Tillman pickup. I think that that's huge, a guy that's played major minutes for the Memphis Grizzlies. And they have Derek White, I think one of the more steady point guard / 2 guard, small forward, small ball, whatever you want to play him at. It's solid. The one thing that I will say here is that their bench is a little short. They're going to have to shorten the rotation a bit. So that scares me a little bit. But, I think that they've been the most consistent, and I like them to be in the finals in the Eastern Conference at least. And Denver, even though they're second in the Western Conference, nobody wants to play Denver at this point in time. Jamal Murray's healthy. You have the Joker. He's clicking on all cylinders. They still got Claudwell Pope out there playing pretty good basketball. They've still got Christian Braun coming off the bench. I think he was one of their best players off the bench. Aaron Gordon coming off. He's playing pretty well in that starting 5. Still kept DeAndre Jordan out there. Love the fact that, they still have Julian Watson out of UCLA. He's played pretty good. Michael Porter Jr. So this team is loaded. They still got everything that they had in the Western Conference last year as far as the roster is concerned. I know that they lost a couple pieces and Bruce Brown and such, but they're still good. They're still going to be good, and I think that they're still the team to beat out of the Western Conference here. So, with that being said, guys, that is today's show, guys, just talking about mainly, the things that we should look out for here in the playoffs and kind of breaking it down, piece by piece. I think that the Western Conference is going to be the more interesting conference when we look back at this thing. I think the West is going to be the most competitive. The East, I think you're going to see some good play-in series and you're going to see some good playoff series, but I think the real action is going to be in the West, man. I think a lot of people are wanting to see Minnesota go against Phoenix. I think a lot of people are going to want to see what OKC is going to do. A lot of people are going to want to see Golden State if they come out of this play-in situation, or the Lakers. I think that that's going to be exciting. I think with the Eastern Conference, the one thing to find out about this is can Boston take it all the way? And who is that next team? Because I think that the gap between Boston is huge. Like, I don't see any other team that's really matching up with Boston out here. Could Miami make a miracle run again? Could a team like the Chicago Bulls come out of nowhere? Which that's not going to happen, but I'm just saying that. Could the Knicks take that next step, right? Can the Knicks actually hold true to form and get back to a championship, right? Can they get back to the Eastern Conference Finals? That's the question, because when I look at this, and looking at the seeding, the Knicks are probably the most consistent team after the Boston Celtics. The problem is they've lost Julius Randle. All right. So, and then also to OG Anunoby has been hurt with the elbow. So a lot of question marks going into this thing with the Eastern Conference, and you don't have that many question marks on the West. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys, about the NBA playoffs. What are you guys looking forward to? Our next show is going to be a show about the play-in tournament. So we'll be talking about that. I just want to thank the guys out there the fans actually, fans out there who have actually listened to the show on either Spotify or YouTube. I definitely appreciate you guys and the support there. I want to thank the sponsors out there for putting sponsorship on the show. And in the show notes, you'll be able to find the links to the show. You can find us here on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify as well. And with that being said, guys, this is Rico. This is Real Talk Sports. I'll see you guys on the next one. And as usual, peace, guys, and enjoy the playoffs. We'll be talking play-ins here in a moment. All right, take care. Peace.